Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the characters and the movies that make us feel seen. And my co-host today is the writer-director of the movie Cannibal Mukbang, which is already out and available for you to access on Tubi at this very moment, which means it's free. And all you have to do is get on that website and search it, which is like the great thing about it. And this is accessible independent cinema. And I'd seen this movie around, and we're here to champion the independent arts on Feeling Seen. So I reached out and was like, Aimee, would you like to come on the show? Aimee Kuge, what do the people need to know about you before we get started here today?
Hi, thank you so much for having me, first of all, Jordan. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to be on the show. I really love what you're doing. Just talking about films in this way is so fun because what are we doing when we're watching movies? We're relating to the characters. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk with you today. Like the film that we're going to talk about today, it is like such an indie project that was
Hmm.
just super character driven and something I'm really proud of. I'm also crowdfunding for a short that I'm gonna direct called Trial
Yes.
Separation, and you could find more info on that at Trial Separation. Just like if you Google Trial Separation Seed&Spark, it'll come up. It's about a woman having an interdimensional relationship with her Kit Kat clock, and it's very weird and sexy and vulnerable and goopy and disgusting and fun. So,
How did the
really
Kit
trying to
Kat
make that
clock
happen.
come to be a central item within your story?
Well, the writer actually, Kara Michelin, wrote it. Um, I don't really understand why she chose a Kit Kat clock,
Great.
but when I
Okay.
read it, I was like, I get it. Like there was no way it shouldn't be. So
Yeah.
you'll have to find out when you watch it. I don't really
Excellent.
understand. There's supposed to be like a demon entity that entered the Kit Kat clock. I don't know when or how, but it's trapped there now, and
Great.
that's
I just had to find out if you had any personal lore with a Kit Kat clock, but hey, if it's a wait and see, it's a wait and see.
yeah.
Um, well, and
I do have two tuxedo cats though, and that is probably why I related so hard to this.
there's a cosmic connection there. This is
Mhm.
fair. In reading about your movie and you coming into this interview, I have to the premise of our conversation here, I've read you talking about Cannibal Mukbang is it is a love story by way of the trappings of genre, which is why there's the word cannibal in the title and there's
Mhm.
mukbanging involved. Two people find each other, a love story ignites. He finds out a crazy fact about the woman that she is and how she lives her life. And I don't want to over explain it, but again, there's cannibaling and there's mukbanging and there's a love story. And I've heard you talk about the central female character Ash as a character that you hadn't really seen in that felt like you hadn't really seen in movies. You've talked about like Jennifer's Body kind of being an inspiring text for something like that. I feel like there's a sort of millennial sleepover horror era influences and stuff you do among many other things, obviously. But I just kind of wanted to hear about that desire to write towards something of like, I haven't seen this before. I want to put this in my story, and why it was important to you, specifically these characters that ran your narrative through Cannibal Mukbang.
Yeah, well, I just feel like I was so used to seeing the final girl be a very specific archetype. Usually someone who's like virginal and kind of like the shy person in the group and
Mhm.
ends up being like the only one who survives and has the arc of becoming a badass. I wanted to make a story where the female character is a badass from the beginning,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean she doesn't have flaws. I think that a lot of times when women are put on these like pedestals to be beautiful and strong, they're not allowed to also have problems and make mistakes. And I
Mhm.
think that writing Ash was really important for me because she is like who I want to be. She's who I want to be with. She's like just so iconic. But she's also like deeply messy and disturbed and has a lot of
Right.
problems. And I think that we can all relate to that. Like, you know, we have this facade of like being one way and then deep down we're a million different things. And a lot of people might think that that's um not attractive, but for me, like that's attractive for like
Mhm.
characters to have that depth. So I actually wrote her character as a man in the beginning, and then
Hmm.
I like changed everything,
Oh,
flipped the
interesting.
genders because I wanted to try writing from a male perspective, and I also wanted to write the romantic lead as a female and
Mhm.
just see, what would happen. And I think that that kind of gave them a little bit of like a lot of people describe Mark and Cannibal Mukbang as like dyke cuck. And I'm like, yep, that makes sense.
How is that? How was receiving that like for the first time when you started hearing like Mark is very dykey when your film was going out in the world? What was that reception for you and going through your filters in your head?
Oh, I mean, 100%. Like when we were
Got
shooting,
it.
I was like, Mark, you're just such a little simp. Like even like talking to Nate Wise about like his developing his character, I'm like, you are a simp. And
Hmm.
like simp isn't a bad thing,
No.
but like you live in this level where like you will watch this woman do anything and you're just happy to be there. So I'm happy that people can relate to it. Um, but yeah, like a lot of the reviews on Letterboxd are so funny. They're like, would have been better if they were lesbians. So
You're
I don't
like,
know.
I don't not see where you're coming from with that.
But I think that's because I wrote them as the opposite sex initially, and then
Hmm.
flipping that their sex and gender roles, I think it made it this like juicier story for people, and
Hmm.
I'm really happy when they interpret it and add the queer lens to it because yeah, it honestly makes me happy. I would
Hmm.
be so much more sad if people were like, another love story, you know.
Yeah. You're like, awesome. The number one way I didn't want you to feel about my movie. Well, speaking
Exactly.
of, I feel like we have two bridge elements in that answer. Well, within the question, the answer. One being Kyle Gallner and Jennifer's body. Two being people who are messy, out of sorts, agents of chaos. Please tell us about the movie you have brought for us to discuss today. A fantastic choice. Tell us who we're talking about today.
So I want to talk about Patty in Dinner in America. Dinner in America is such a fun, weird movie. I feel like it had because it came out in 2020, it just had some issues with people actually seeing it.
Yeah,
And then TikTok and I don't know, the cult status whirlwind just like picked it up and distributed it across our all of our phones. And I
hmm.
think that it's had this beautiful like second and third life and uh, Patty's character in the movie is just like so unique, and I still haven't seen anyone else like her. I mean, maybe the movie Daisies from like the 60s has
Sure.
some elements of that, just like um, a chaotic femme character.
Hmm.
But I think that Patty's really unique because she never like she never really apologizes for the way she is, and also like her character arc along with Simon, played by Kyle Gallner. Also should mention that Emily Skeggs plays Patty and does an amazing job.
Amazing
Um,
job. In a
yeah,
performance that feels spontaneously generated the entire movie.
yeah. I mean, I can't imagine who else could have played these characters. And I was actually reading that there was some difficulty casting Patty's character because a lot of the actors would get to like the final stages of casting and then be like, this is actually too intense for me. Like she's too weird for me. And you can't have someone be self-conscious about being weird play Patty. So
No.
thankfully we got Emily Skeggs.
It really Dinner in America is it is also a surprising love story. It is a love story with a lot of other things happening that would kind of what you might be compelled to describe it as like another category of movie, but it's bedrock. It is a love story about we start from the experience of Kyle Gallner's character, who is a very like ne'er-do-well frontman for a punk rock band. He is coming out of a clinical setting where he has participated in some sort of pharmaceutical trial for money and ends up after a couple misadventures crossing paths with Patty, and Patty is a bit of a wayward soul. Like she is plagued by bullies in her town, constantly assailing her, calling her the R word. And she's 20 and she doesn't quite have a path. She's recently lost her job at a pet store and she's not there's God, she's like impossible to describe. She's because there's
Mhm.
something about her that feels like it has this bedrock in a manic pixie dream girl, but if it was like somebody writing it was like, but what if she fucking wasn't and she was just sincerely this strange? And yet, oh God, this movie is somehow simple to explain. Like boy meets girl, they go on misadventures that like headed toward like a climactic punk show in a warehouse, and yet the experience in the details along the way is so distinct. Like this love story doesn't feel like one that I feel like I've seen otherwise, and Patty feels like a character I truly have not seen anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like the first time I saw this movie, I was totally blown away. I cried. And I watched it immediately the next day. I was like, I have to watch it again. And it's a divisive film because some people find it really abrasive and um say that it's offensive because of the use of the R word in the movie. But to me, like Patty's character is kind of like a more complicated Napoleon from Napoleon Dynamite.
That is a
Like
great poll. That is
like the
a great
femme
poll for
Napoleon
talking about
Dynamite.
this.
Yeah. And like we learn more about her and we want her to succeed, but she's in this really weird time of her life that we all, if you're over 20, can relate to. Like
Mm.
when you're like out of high school, but you don't, and she's not in college, she's not, what is she doing?
Yeah, it
It's
really
this
feels
weird
like a
time when
not a
like
girl, not yet a woman liminal space that Patty's in.
yeah, and like her Midwest town where there's like not much going on, and the bullies who are also like sexually harassing her and
Yes.
kind of like trauma level evil. Like the
Yeah,
tone,
yeah,
the tone differences in the movie are really bizarre, but I think um give it a lot of great character. And for me, like I I loved how it started so intense and abrasive. And I was reading about the acting about how Adam Raymer was like, you guys have to be at 11 all the time
uh-huh.
for this movie, and I think that you can really see them at 11 like throughout the whole film. But then their romance is so tender and sweet, and
Mm.
like I don't know, there's that contrast with it being such an abrasive, strange, disgusting, and like loud movie and like
Yeah,
gross. Like there's like shit, there's like a lot of like weird sexual assault type things that even happen too.
yeah,
But then at the core of it is this like beautiful romance that doesn't it shouldn't work, and it also like doesn't they don't change for each other, which I
yeah,
feel like a lot of other movies the characters change for each other. They go on like some sort of like big journey together, but their journey is just like having fun together
yeah.
and like seeing each other for the first time.
She loves him for the like kind of generally like broad strokes awful person that he is. Like we get to look at his backstory, we understand like
Yeah.
where he comes from and what like challenges that he's had, and he absolutely like there's not a bit of him that wants Patty to be different or more conformist the way that she gets persecuted for. But it is you're right. Like I and so I wonder like I wanted to hear from you as an independent filmmaker yourself, like the perspective of like watching something like this where so many tones could be at war with each other. But this movie
Mhm.
manages to like find the harmony between, like you said, all these like alienating elements. Like I remember like first watching it, I was like, I love Kyle Gallner, and I was like, he is ripping the screen up, but I'm also having a really hard time watching this because he is so unroot forable, even just in these beginning moments. Like he's alienating me from this movie. And then like you
Yeah.
settle into it, and I absolutely found like where its hooks got in me. But I wanted to hear from you about that challenge of threading the needle, putting all these things together. Like this movie kind of feels impossible to pull off.
I don't know how they pulled it off, honestly. I think at the core of it, the writing is good, and I think that their characters are so sweet
Hmm.
together. Like, yeah, Kyle Gallner sucks, and like totally, to be honest with you, Kyle Gallner's character is a terrible person.
Terrible, because
And
he is a terrible person.
I don't think they should be together forever, but like for this time in their lives, it's beautiful, and I think that it brings Patty out of her shell. And spoiler alert, she starts a rock band with her friends at the
She
end of the
starts a
movie.
riot girl, starts a
And
riot girl band with her
yeah,
friends.
I know, and I'm like, that's like that's what she needed. She needed something to like pull her out. She wanted someone to go to the show with. Like the
Yeah.
whole movie starts with her being like asking her parents, which one is super awkward that she's like she's 20 and she's like, "Hey guys, can I go to the show?" So, I think that she gets brought out of her shell
Mm.
by Kyle Gallner's character, by Simon, but at the end of the day, like he's a terrible person.
Yes.
But how they pull this off for me is just the like subtle shifts in their acting and like towards each other. Like
Mm.
in the beginning, he's so mean to her, and then as it slowly goes on, like you can tell that he wants to spend time with her.
Hmm.
And like he's using her for a cover, sure, but there's that really sweet moment when they're like eating that burger together before they have their first kiss, and like For me, what made this special is that like Emily Skeggs, she's a beautiful person,
Mm.
but she's not a conventional leading lady. Like
Hmm.
in a lot of movies, especially now, like we're just seeing like honestly sometimes even like Instagram influencers who are really pretty and models become leading ladies of like
Mm.
these franchises and these movies. And like Emily Skeggs is like not a conventionally attractive, and I'm
Sure,
putting air quotes over this,
sure.
leading person. Like she's a very like pretty but like a kind of normal looking person.
Hmm.
In a lot of ways to like the casting in Napoleon Dynamite, where these look like people that are
Yeah,
on the streets
truly
that you
people
could
you
just
just see, you
find.
could see at the store in your town. Like, just like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, I buy groceries next to these people.
she's not like Megan Fox or Amanda Seyfried. She's
Hmm.
Seyfried. I said her name wrong. She's not. She's not like a A-list actress type person. Like
Hmm.
I just like that she looks like a normal girl, and
Hmm.
like I think that there's something sweet about her and him like eating that burger together, and like he sees the beauty in her, and she
Hmm.
doesn't have to put on makeup. She doesn't have to have a makeover. She doesn't have to do anything totally different. By the end, she is acting like she is wearing like a little bit more of like punky type clothes and
Yeah.
like a little bit of eyeliner, but she doesn't have this big transformation from like nerdy girl to like hot girl like a lot of movies that we grew up with.
Yeah, Rachel
You
Lee
know,
Cook
like
didn't take off
she's
her glasses and
exactly.
become the prom queen.
She didn't have to change. And I think that that's what's beautiful is like they just spent time together and got to know each other. And when they kiss, it just feels so real. And
Hmm.
like that that kiss is like one of the best kisses in all of cinema for me. Like that's up there with Edward and Bella kissing in the room.
With quite like intermittently Kyle Gallner turning around to absolutely like demolish anybody who's looking at them.
I know, which kind of took me out of it. I'm like, stop being an asshole. But I don't know. I just think that why this works tonally is that they're very patient with their like with how they fall in love with each other.
That, yeah,
And
very
there's
good
not
point.
like this super dramatic gesture with them. Like they do have these shenanigans where they're like, starting fires and she's flashing her bullies and then
Yeah.
he's making like taking all their clothes and all that. But like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like there's just something really sweet and like it makes me think of like Midwestern emo music. Like watching this movie feels like I'm
It's a
listening to like a new Midwest emo album.
really good point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's something where I was reading you talking about the character of Mark, the male lead in your movie, and initial eyes being on I think your script for Cannibal Mukbang were it sounds like the response was kind of like this guy sucks. Like like there was kind of like I'm not with this guy. Like I think one of the things you said was like this guy's like a movie shitty guy. Like that kind of like
Yeah.
archetype. And you obviously like wrote him more toward like simp like lesbian coded man. And but I wanted to hear from you about that process of when you're making what's like it's a love story and there will be cannibalism, and you watch Dinner Americans, it's a love story and this guy's like an abusive terrible person and with a really weird central female character that he's playing off of against and with. And I wanted to hear from you about that tension of like making work that does exist in a provocative space like genre and horror, and being like what is my line between inviting provocation and alienation, and like where did you find you like obviously you found the balance you wanted with the final project of Cannibal Mukbang, but I wanted to hear about your thought process of like do I want to push people, do I want to alienate people, like no, I want this guy to be warmer. Like how did you come to that like resolution?
Well, I do always want to push people, and I think that having no feelings about a movie is like the worst thing that you can do as a filmmaker. Like
Yeah.
I always joke like give my movie a 1 star if you really feel that way, because that
Yeah.
means you feel something. And I want
Hmm.
you to feel something. Um, but I think that the provocation is so personal. Like
Hmm.
some people might find something really offensive and not really want to like learn more about it or see it on screen.
Yeah.
And then other people can see themselves in it so clearly. And I think with like I think that they're very different movies, but both Cannibal Mukbang and Dinner in America have two leads that are really complicated
Yeah.
and some could say very unlikable and then likable in another light. Um I think that there has to be like a little bit of both for your characters to
Mm.
work. And you're right. When I first wrote Mark, he was so unlikable. Everybody hated him. They're like, this guy's the worst. Uh, he's like an incel that like tweets and like, uses his letterbox and just
Yeah, just
writes
like a
like,
total poster dickhead
yeah,
kind of guy.
yeah, like who has like Christopher Nolan on his wall and like, like that sort of person.
You're like, not
But
even Interstellar or Tenet, just Christopher Nolan in a blazer
his
on his
picture,
wall.
yes, exactly. Yeah, he loves him.
Any by 10
Um,
glossy of Christopher Nolan. God, I hope
but
I
I
see
wrote
that in a movie to tip me
I
off
would
to
love to
somebody.
see that. I would love to see that. But I wrote him like kind of based on me, which to me was like, wow, I must like hate myself because all these people like don't like this man.
Fascinating.
So I tried to change him and make him a little more funny and like goofy.
Mm.
Um, and the whole clumsy line, like clumsiness can be cured, that is said in the movie. Like that's like something that has happened throughout my whole life. I'm super clumsy. I break things all the time. I'm always tripping and falling. And yeah, so just kind of putting those things that like might not be like good character traits about myself and like
Mm.
flipping them and putting them into people on screen, into my
Hmm.
characters on screen. And I'd be curious to know if like Adam Raymer did that for Dinner in America too. Like I think that he said that he just wrote Kyle Gallner's character based on like seeing like posters of people like going and selling like body parts or like doing these weird clinical tests for money. And he like came
Okay.
up with the idea of like a punk kid doing that for money. Um, which some would be like, wow, that's really weird. Don't do that. But then for a lot of people in America, like we are doing insane things and unconventional things to make money.
People are
So,
using crowdfunding as fucking healthcare. Like, I don't,
yeah.
I'm not gonna say it was real, but like, I saw somebody post on Twitter today. She was like, I'm gonna tell you how I became a millionaire from my Uber Eats gig. I started including my feet in photos of my deliveries. And I was like,
Oh my
we live
God.
in a world where this is not a bit. Like it very well could be, but also the nature and shape of how of dinner in America is that that could
Hmm.
fucking be true.
Yeah. And both these people, like it's just fun to see people like this on camera where or on screen where they're just regular people. Like she's like
Mm,
working at a pet store and then she's applying to be a dishwasher.
yeah,
And like he's this like crusty punk kid that's just like a vagabond and um but then has like his kind of rich parents that are
yeah.
rejecting him. Like there's a lot of fun, interesting details that are revealed throughout the movie that make him more fascinating and like you can see how they relate to each other because their
Mm,
families' lives are very oppressive,
mm.
like both of them. So they find, a lot of freedom with each other, even though like they're a very unlikely pair,
Yeah.
Like I I just find it fascinating to have characters like that.
Hmm.
I like how you asked about like you said about like you asked me the question you asked was like
Like inviting
being provocative,
provocation.
but also like, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm gonna push you. Like
Yeah.
I feel like revenge is like inviting
Hmm.
provocation or like substance,
Hmm.
whereas like Lars von Trier is like alienation. Fuck you. Like a I'm not in this for anything other than alienation, and you're either on board or you're
Hmm.
not. Versus like I want to make you uncomfortable, but I don't necessarily want you to leave. Instead of being
Yeah, I don't want
dared to
people to
leave.
leave. Yeah. But then I also like I have such a downer ending in my film.
It's not
So a
it's
lot of
not
people
a
hate
it's not
that.
a Hollywood ending. It's not a Hollywood ending.
Yeah. Yeah. But Dinner in America has a great ending, like a happy ending.
It does.
So,
It's really quite triumphant. And so okay, but to the Patty of it, like to the indescribable Patty, this is I love that Napoleon Dynamite comparison because Napoleon Dynamite is never making fun of Napoleon. It's
no.
like you're in the point of view of him. And he is a character that exists as a side role in other movies that make him a joke. And it's like that movie was like, what if this side character that was like a town gag was actually our hero? And Napoleon
Yeah.
Dynamite is confident. And he's unrelentingly himself. And then you have Patty in this where she feels like I was thinking of it when I was like watching her like shoot hoops horribly. I love that she loves to shoot hoops, Patty.
Yeah.
She's shooting hoops in her driveway, and she looks like a neighbor character in like a kind of small town like high school comedy where you would only see Patty not making baskets and people would kind of have a laugh at her expense. And this movie makes her a romantic heroine. It makes her like a like aspiring pop singer hero. And
Yeah.
I wanted to hear from you about where, like, if the, for the feeling scene of it, where do you find your intersection with Patty?
So I found a lot of I related to her so much. I mean, I grew up in Colorado in the suburbs. Like, it was a beautiful place to live, but
Hmm.
it was very isolating and moved around a lot, like had a kind of tumultuous childhood. Love my parents, by the way, but like
Great.
tumultuous things happened
Hmm.
that I won't get into here. But I
Fair.
think that her like existing and having this really creative, fun side of her
Hmm.
that's sort of like hiding in her room. But then when she's like out in public, she's so shy and awkward and
Hmm.
um I don't know. Like I felt so bad for her. Like I'm like, you should be in the city somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, why are you here? You know? And that's how I felt about myself. I'm like, you're gonna move to New York. Like when I was in
Mm.
my early 20s, I'm like, you have to move to New York.
Okay.
And I kind of feel that way about her. Like she's so fun and weird and like her taking pictures of herself masturbating on her bed with vintage Polaroid cameras, listening
One
to
of
like
the
punk
great
music.
zags of all time. Like, it is so crazy. That whole sequence where she's just like thrashing to punk in her room, and you realize that she's like turning herself on with like, that's like the foreplay she does before she masturbates, photographs herself doing it, and then send those photos to the lead singer of the band she's listening to. And that's like early when we meet Patty. We're not even like settled into Patty. And then we're like, fuck, this is Patty.
I know, and it's great because
It's
like
wild.
we don't see people do that a lot on screen, and I
No,
get
we
why they're
don't.
having problems getting an actor to play Patty for that type of stuff. But for me, like I could relate to that so hard, and I think that like I went to school for art and for film, but my art degree was so all about like your artist identity. And I could
Hmm.
see so many people now like making their whole identity them masturbating and taking a picture of like their climax
You're
and like
so
capturing
right.
that
That
moment. You
that
know, like that is
feels
so
like
cool.
engagement bait now.
Yeah, like that's so cool. And her just doing that in her like Midwest town for one guy that she doesn't even know is like it's just iconic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's like reclaiming her sexuality and like this side of her that she doesn't get to express anywhere. And I felt that growing up a lot. Like um growing up Asian American, I was the only Asian person in every class that I was in Colorado.
Yeah.
I always was into horror movies and weird art, so I would be like filling up sketchbooks with weird things and like watching Queen of the Damned
Uh-huh.
and The Cell with my mom and like listening to I'm wearing a Blink shirt right now. I know they're like super popular in punk, but I started listening to them when I was like 5.
Uh-huh.
So like I just felt like I haven't seen characters like her that were the main character, like what you're saying. Like they're always kind of like the weird girl side
Hmm.
character, or like the friend's friend who like shows up for a few scenes,
Hmm.
like for a laugh in like an
Yeah.
American Pie movie. Um, so it's fun to just see her be represented in that way, and the kind of dysfunctional like family that she has, where they're like not talking about her issues. Like
Yeah.
she has like outbursts at the table, and no one's explaining why.
No.
Like
There
she
it's
clearly is
so
neurodivergent and like maybe needs to see a therapist or something.
they're just like tiny. This movie is such takes such like an interesting like confident stance in what they're not gonna tell you, and
Hmm.
like where we know that like Patty, like she I think she was attending, like she like started going to like a kind of college thing after she left that. She seems to have a lot of strange restrictions and supervisions on how she can behave when she like Kyle Gallner comes into the kitchen at one point because he's like stayed the night there, and he asks about coffee and she's like, it's cold, I can't have anything on when I'm home by myself. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, this is a rich tapestry. And this comes after we've seen the masturbating and taking the Polaroid photos of that. And there's just, it doesn't, there's not like a sit down exposition about like why Patty has come to this moment in her life that she's at and why these details about her seem to be true. And I watched it and I was like, wow, I can't believe it's just kind of like letting me drift in this. But then it kind of just felt like, well, but Patty's Patty. Like, even
Yeah.
if I explained to you why, she'd still just be completely herself. Like, it felt like it didn't want to defend who Patty was, because that would mean that
Mhm.
Patty needed a defense of some kind. I don't know. That was just
Right.
what I was thinking.
I feel the same way, and a lot of people that I've talked to that don't like the movie say that it's like kind of exploitative to a neurodivergent person that has like mental issues. But for me, like just showing her as she is and like not making it this sad story about her,
Yeah.
like she exists and she has like her own life and her own things going on, and she doesn't need to be perfect, or explain herself. I think that
Hmm.
that's actually a lot more empowering and beautiful in my opinion. Like I like that we don't know why she can't have hot coffee or things turned on in the house.
Yeah. Like, why a coffee maker just cannot be on when she's unsupervised.
I think it's like it just kind of adds to her like punk nature too.
Yeah.
Like she's the kind of person that like for instance, every time I go to like a play, I think about jumping on stage and ruining the play. Will I ever do that? No. But Patty's the person who would do that. And there's something super punk and fun about that. And I think that that's why her and Simon relate to each other because they both have this like really intense fiery energy just boiling beneath the surface and they
Hmm.
like can kind of freak out together and like scream together. And it's really nice.
Well, and
I
it's
really like that you brought that up because I just hate when people say that her character is like being like exploited or like I don't know. I don't feel that way at all. And I
I,
could be wrong, but I personally don't
yeah.
feel that way.
I'm like, if somebody somebody who is a stakeholder in that conversation in a way that I'm not, I would absolutely like love to hear their perspective on this. And because I'm not gonna speak for a community of neurodivergent people that I don't belong to, but as someone who does not live in that community, in that space, I watched like the whole movie. I'm just kind of thinking about how rad she is, and I'm so angry at everyone that is mean to her, that I
Yeah.
feel like, to me, that is indicating that the movie is not on the side of those people. The movie is not on the side of Patty's like oppressors. They're not on the side of Patty's villains. The villains are
Hmm.
drawn in such cartoonishly broad strokes. Like, literally, like the two skull bullies they're only seen in matching tracksuits that like they have to wear for like the team that they belong to. Like, they're jokes, they're
Yeah.
caricatures. And Patty's not a caricature. Patty has so much inner life that we see through just like an incredible example of that, the insane dancing masturbation scene. Like, we're like, damn, Patty has got a lot going on here. And you watch her,
Hmm.
like, it feels like you said, I don't want them together forever. It feels like Simon is never gonna grow. He's never gonna grow up. But it feels like she's gonna grow beyond Simon at a certain point, and so I hope
Yeah.
like I hope they have a good year or two when he finally gets out of prison, that they
Yep.
can enjoy each other's company, but that she's like,
Yeah.
hey, I am not actually there anymore, and I'm a more functioning adult because Simon's really not. But I don't know, this at no point did I feel like this movie was limiting or somehow adjudicating that Patty shouldn't have the agency that she does. Like, Patty is
No.
propelling herself through this movie.
She is. And like I think that that beautiful scene when they're playing whack-a-mole with My Kind of Woman playing
Yes.
is like a perfect example of the filmmakers being on their side and
Hmm.
like showing that this is real and they're not making fun of it.
Hmm.
Um, it's beautiful. Like, and from like if you're looking at that song and watching the scene from like Simon's perspective, like he's having this realization, like, oh, like I'm in love with this person for her personality,
Yeah.
and she doesn't have to dress the way I do or act the way I do, but I'm like falling in love with her. And then that when he figures out who she is and
Yeah.
then she figures out who he is, that scene is so fun too because like they don't change for each other. They're just like unpeeling these layers
Yeah.
that they've both created um and discovering who they really are. And I think another great moment where the filmmakers are celebrating Patty and her like uniqueness and how
Hmm.
rad she is. when she starts singing and like she's singing lyrics that she wrote, and those lyrics are so
Incredible.
cool.
Where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, where's my Patty album? Like you said,
Yeah.
this Midwest emo vibes movie. It's like, can I have the Patty album of six
Hmm.
songs? Like, where's the Sky Riley accompanying soundtrack? A la like Smile 2 from Patty. This is
Yeah.
he was right. Simon was right. These are bangers.
I know. And like it also shows him being really like prolific in a way too. Like he just
Mhm.
produced that song in one afternoon in his basement. Like there's something just really beautiful about that whole sequence where they're making the song together. And this is what the TikTok girls have used a million times in a row. They're like, I want someone to look at me the way Simon looks at Patty. And it's like him like tearing up, and Kyle Gallner is just such an amazing actor. Like his
God, he is so
eyes
good.
and
He's
that.
one of our great leading men, Kyle
He
Gallner.
is. Yeah. I mean, he's amazing. And he's like
And
the
he is an
James Dean of
indie
our
cinema
generation.
diehard. You get Kyle Gallner on the horn. Aimee, you get
Mhm.
Kyle Gallner on the horn and you make some indie cinema magic.
He's getting too big for me now, Jordan. He's on another level. But he was like, I mean, that scene when he's crying is so beautiful. And we all want someone to look at us like that and talk about feeling seen. Like she's feeling seen in that moment. We're all
She
kind of
is.
feeling seen.
She's
Yeah.
so seen, and I think that really that the way that they play that with her singing and her performing, and at a certain point we're just hanging on him and he's steadily welling up with tears. That to me, like how on the side of Patty this movie is. Like this movie
Yeah.
is Kyle Gallner looking at Patty. Like that
Yeah.
like that is he is in seeing her in that way, and I would have a you'd have to make a really compelling argument for me to believe that somehow things are happening in this movie that undermines the potency of that moment of understanding where it's like this movie loves Patty. This movie thinks Patty's a
Yeah.
fucking icon, you guys.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And like she takes her glasses off, and again, like there's no big, makeover or anything. Like she's
Hmm.
just there without her makeup on, standing in his basement singing. And like it's just so raw and
Hmm.
beautiful, and just made me feel like wow, there can be movies that have different types of characters in them
Hmm.
again, you know?
Well, and you come from not initially a film arts background. Like you worked your way toward like discovering film as a medium you wanted to work in. I think you were working in more like fine art or photography. And so I wanted
Yeah.
to like what was that progression and why did once it got its hooks in you why was film the art form that you wanted, for the shakiness that it is as a profession and the difficulty of it and the challenges of it. Like what about it has served you so much as the girl who knew she was getting out of Colorado to come to New York City, like where
Hmm.
does the filmmaking fit in that person's that artist's progression to where you are as a professional filmmaker now?
Thank you for asking that. I mean, I have always been into drawing and writing like comics, and I feel
Mm.
like comics are like storyboards.
Oh,
They really
cool.
are. So I used to draw like Hey Arnold fan comics,
Uh-huh.
like really random weird things
Uh-huh.
growing up. And in college, I have a fine art or I have an arts degree, and I would be oil painting like for hours alone. And it was a very isolating experience. And
Yeah.
you were like your own champion with your artist identity and everything in all those
Seriously.
classes. But then I had a film degree too, like simultaneously, and I got a BFA in film, and that filmmaking, like just journey in school was so magical and fun, like just learning how to make things with each other.
Hmm.
It didn't feel isolating. It was like at least five people on one group. Like even
Yeah.
if it was a small story, you have to have a crew.
Yeah.
And so creating something together, learning to shoot on like Super 8 and 16, um, and kind of put like my writing and also like just visual language, melding them together in that way, it just felt supernatural for me.
Mm.
I started doing food photography when I first moved to New York for a
I read
restaurant
that
group.
detail that like
Yeah.
you were like a full-time food photographer.
Yeah, yeah. All I did was do food photography and social media for these vegan restaurants in New
Okay.
York. If you know Champ's Diner, Screamer's Pizzeria, like
I
all
have heard of
those.
Champs actually. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I did that for a few years, and that kind of got me going here in New York. Like my old boss knows this, but I lied and I said like I already lived there when I applied. And
Oh,
then
I
they're
did
like,
that once for
okay,
an
come
internship.
interview.
I interviewed for an internship at Rolling Stone. I got
Yeah.
like notified by I got an email that was like, "Oh, we would love to have you come in." And I used a friend's address in Queens.
Hmm.
And they were like, "Next week doesn't work, but like are you available the week after?" And I was like, You bet I am. And then
Yep.
spent so much money on a last minute round trip ticket to New York cause like, are they gonna, it's an internship, it's not paid. They're gonna pull a resume from a girl who's in Oregon when they could pull one from a girl who's a subway ride away? Absolutely they're not. So I 100% lied, said I lived in New
Yeah.
York, got the internship, and then moved to New York for a season.
So we both did the same thing. It's
100,
like you gotta do
you
what
do
you
what you
gotta
gotta do
do.
when you're trying to get set up, especially in a city
Yeah.
like that. My God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean I was making shorts throughout the whole time I was here and um just started working on film sets.
Mm.
I just worked a few days on Shakespeare Shitstorm. It's a Lloyd Kaufman Troma movie, and that was like my first big film set that I ever did anything on. I
Oh
like
wow.
worked on his wig and like helped him with his outfit a day. Like just so, super random crowd control things like telling people they couldn't walk in the scene. Like
Yeah,
you got to start somewhere and
you
like
do.
to anybody who's listening to this and wants to get in film, like it sucks, but you will have to work for free a lot. It sucks. Like I still do stuff for free for my
Yep.
friends all the time. It's
1000%.
just
Yep.
like
It's
it
it's a
is a
circle of
community
life. You
thing.
you do it for free, then
Yeah.
some like someone you get to know who becomes in your circle, they need a hand, you do that for free. Like that's just how it works. Like and I coming from journalism, same thing. Like, oh, I'm writing
Yeah.
for exposure. Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm like I'm just
Mm-hmm.
getting started in this business. I would love to get paid in a byline. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely wrong and exploitative, and it's absolutely the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, I wish it could change, but there is also something really like community building about being like, okay, I'm gonna work a few days on the set and
Big
make
time.
maybe $100
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah,
And
I'm
just
gonna
meet all
get I'm
these
gonna
people
get
and network.
lunches. I'm gonna get pizza every day because they're gonna pay me. They're gonna provide me lunch.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that it's always been in me to do film, but um, like it was always going to happen,
Mm,
basically. Like I can't help myself. I
okay.
just want to make stuff.
Well, then I
Same
get
way
I
with you with writing. Like you just can't help but want to write, you
I
know?
yeah, no, I remember when I left when I got pandemicked out of Vulture in 2020, the like I was ready emotionally to leave journalism proper
Hmm.
behind. I was like, hey, I am moving toward not being in this industry, so like it's not the leaving that it makes me sad. It's what I get to do. Like the and the like the saving grace of this show, like the thing I knew I would miss the most was interviewing people. Like I like this process, like talking to people about the things that they put out and like having that go out into the world, that like it's part of who I am. Like it's part of my
Hmm.
identity that I do this. It's not a hobby. It's part of how I self-identify is
Hmm.
doing this kind of activity with people. It's crazy just like, and fuck, we wouldn't be doing it if that weren't the case, because it's certainly not for the glory or
No.
for the guaranteed paychecks.
No.
Well, okay,
Absolutely
as
not.
as I come to my conclusion then, I would like it like you do all these jobs. Like on film sets, like you said, you do the work for free. You're working on someone's wig. You're doing I think I read you did like unit photography on the Castle Freak remake. Like you do all these things to like you're incorporating this artistic background and training into this professional training of like being on set and what is that like? Coming like having a feature under your belt and like
Mhm.
having pulled that off, I think you said on like a 14-day shooting schedule, like just
Yeah.
like 2 weeks to make a feature film. And then I'm so glad you shouted it out in interviews I've read of like, and then I spent a year, like then like the time that it takes like to deliver a movie. Like I have to
Yeah.
finish a movie, I have to do post, I have to deliver a movie. Like there's just so much that goes into putting something like this out in the world. I wanted to know what the experience of that set as a standard for you for like when you make your next feature, what are the biggest things you took from number one that you want to bring into number two?
Time is more valuable than anything.
Mm,
And I think that I would rather have a small crew and more days than a
mm,
huge crew and less days.
got it.
I found my people that I love to work with. Shout out to Harrison Kraft and Danny Rinaldi. Um, my DP and Gaffer are like amazing, and we just
Amazing.
got so much done. I love those guys to death, and I think that having like a really, really tight-knit crew where you're all on the same page, you're all open to
Hmm.
collaborating or open to making mistakes, trying things out, but having the time to do it is so important. Like the 14-day shoot was the principal photography for the movie, and a lot of those scenes are so rushed. Like we would have like 2 hours in a restaurant,
Right.
and that's it. And
It's
so we'd get in,
insane.
set up, do the scene, leave. Versus the flashback sequence that we shot in Florida that was on Super 8, that we had the whole weekend. It was just me, Danny Harrison,
Mm,
April Consuelo, her sister, and then Jared Thomas, who was like our art director for that weekend.
mm,
So having just like a really small crew and like we weren't doing sound or anything, just like that stuff is so beautiful. There
yeah.
is something super fun about like the really indie small set. Like you really don't need a lot. Um, and I think that people confuse like film, like when people think of a film set, they think of like 20 people running around and someone
Yeah.
running around with tons of coffee and the director sitting in the chair. But like I want to be on a set where I'm like my hands are getting bloody and I'm like making some fake intestines and then I'm like cleaning them up and like directing the scene and holding the bowl while someone like pukes in it.
Yeah.
From not actually puking, but like, April was eating a lot of fake meat and regular meat and didn't want to swallow all of it. So I'm sitting
Yeah.
there like off camera holding the bowl for her. Like I want to be in the weeds with everybody. I like to
Mm,
do a lot of different things. So biggest thing is time.
mm,
And there are a lot of people that are making features now where they shoot like over weekends over like a year. And that
mm.
seems extremely stressful because you have to make sure everyone can keep doing that. There's
Yeah.
something about having like the 2 week run where it's really, 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 really tiring and exhausting,
Yeah.
but you get it done and everyone's motivated. It feels like summer camp.
Yeah.
But there is this new thing going on where people are filming on weekends and like my other feature, Black Eyed Susan, that I co-produced, we did that in 9 days over 3 weekends. And
Wow.
like, yeah, that was super stressful, but there was something nice about having a few days off and like doing our day job and then
Yeah.
going and shooting the 16 millimeter like AI sex robot movie like in a warehouse. Like so I think that there's ways to do this where you give yourself the time, but I think that the time is so important
Yeah.
and I want to give myself more of it next time.
I am so glad that we can wrap up on AI sex robot on the weekends.
Warehouse movie.
That is a great bow to put on the top of this. Aimee Kuge, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about Dinner in America, bringing it to discuss, first of all, and Cannibal Mukbang, which again is available for people to watch right now on Tubi.
Thanks, Jordan. It was so fun. You're so easy to talk to. I feel like that time flew by. And I love that we both lied about where we lived and we got our jobs.
Maximum Fun.
A worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.